こんにちは、私はマイク。
私はサム。そして、これはドドットリの賢明な言葉。
What's up, Dodo Birds? We are back with episode 22. This is going to be a kind of themed episode, I suppose. I want to...
You could say that.
Sam and I are dressed up for the occasion. I just got back from an anime convention. This is not typically my wheelhouse or choosing of social events.
It's not really mine either. But
But
we're
my
gonna
wife,
talk about it
Mary,
today.
really likes anime, and I love to support her hobbies. So I spent a weekend amongst in the den of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
nerds, and these are a different nerd than my clan.
Same. Yeah. I would say I'm more in your clan.
yeah,
Than that clan. But my sister is, of course, part of that.
for sure.
So,
Sam and I are different types of nerds.
Yeah. but we're not unsympathetic or unfriendly to this type of nerd.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I have to say, like, I've only watched a few animes in my entire life. I'm not an anime guy. I don't shit on it or anything. However, it's really cool to see pockets of people's hobbies and like these niche communities that all just get together and are really like loving and accepting, like even to outsiders. Like a bunch of socially awkward, sweaty kids. Yeah, in fact, 17,000. I went to Anime Milwaukee, so there were 17,000 people there, and it was such a loving and accepting community, like, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's what I always hear about them.
Yeah, it's like, not being of the culture, it's like kind of a culture shock, but
Oh, I bet. I mean, like you can say it. It's probably a little weird.
it definitely is. Like,
Yeah.
I was worried about a certain amount of gatekeeping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
Gatekeeping.
So I'm a big fan of like metal, and in metal I think a lot of people don't give it a shot because of the gatekeeping. Like, oh, you don't listen to this band, or like you've never heard of
Yeah.
oh, you like them now.
You've never heard of this, so you were expecting it kind of at the convention.
Yeah,
Okay.
like name your top 5 battle animes or get the fuck out,
right.
like
No, I feel like that would be not the case so much at an anime place.
that was kind of the feeling I was like thinking though. For whatever reason, that was kind of the expectation I had, was that like they're gonna know I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna
that's definitely how I would feel there.
Yeah, stand out in the flock, but
Well, and one thing my sister has told me, because she works at these things, and she's an anime nerd, right?
yeah,
And there are people there who make her feel like just a regular, everyday person.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Who
there's
is
a
not into anime at all. When
there's a spectrum. What does she do at these conventions?
she sets up a booth. I mean, I actually don't know T for T, but she
It's like
works
a
she
retail
works-
booth?
I was gonna say she works for a store at
Okay.
in a mall. That's all I'll give. But that sells anime merchandise and stuff like that. And
T-shirts.
that company, which it's a small little small private owned company, they go to these things and set up. I think they just put stuff from their store. I actually hope to have her on sometime to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give everything away. Plus, I don't know all the details, but I do know she travels a lot. She goes to conventions everywhere and meets a lot of interesting people. And she's gotten to like take pictures because she goes to all kinds of, it's not just animes. Like she's gone to things where, she takes pictures with Star Wars people, R2D, like an actual R2D2
Sure.
and stuff like that. So yeah, she has a lot of fun doing that. But like, yeah, I was just mostly saying that like, you're going to find us, like you said, a spectrum of nerds there, because that's like where she normally feels at home, and she'll run into people and it's just like, oh wow, you're a nerd.
Yeah, you're really into this.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool how much of a spectrum of like types of things were represented too, anywhere from Dungeons and Dragons to, your Dragon Ball, and like
Right.
a lot of cosplays that I wasn't even familiar with, but like
But
really
you did see some D&D stuff there?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, actually quite
you
a bit.
probably been pretty at home with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have like a little bit of an aside. about. There's these different panels, so you can kind of choose, like, you can go to like classes. There was one that I was going to, it was called How Not to Suck at Storytelling, and it's for like dungeon masters and people that want to like do these tabletop games. And so I was like, okay, these are my clan. I can talk to these people. And I start talking to some kid in front of me who was just like chatting it up with the people in front for the line because we're waiting to get in to this event. And I like start talking to him, and immediately like it just went so bad. Like I'm kind of anybody. I feel like I'm somebody who can make conversation with pretty much anybody. Like, you know, I can make small talk anywhere I'm at. And in fact, in lines is a place where I feel confident doing that. You know, even if I'm at like a fucking baseball game where I don't know shit about, you know, I could still make conversation. But I was just like, oh, hey, so like you play or are you a DM? And he's just like, yeah. And like I just heard him get done with being like, oh, I think something is like really broken and they should be balanced, and I really wish I could have like, I wish there was more features for such and such with the people right in front of me. So I was like, I'm gonna talk to this guy about like, oh, it's like, oh, so have you played this and that? And he's just like, yeah,
rolls his eyes at you, like, what kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah, it was kind of funny that I was just like, I was called out immediately. I don't know. I was socially awkward amongst the most socially awkward. Like it was an experience I've never had, so it was very humiliating.
Because like I don't know, I feel the same way sometimes amongst those crowds. Because like I'm a nerd. I mean, not so much an anime nerd, but like I'm totally a nerd. But I'm not enough of a nerd. You know what I mean? I feel like when I get there. And I don't go to conventions, you know, but like part of the reason is like I feel like I'd go there and it's like I'm not nerd enough to be here, and I'm also too nerdy to hang out with other people, you know?
Yeah.
I'm right there in the middle where it's like nobody wants me.
No, I don't think so. We got to find what would be like the ideal SamCon.
I mean,
well, like, what's at that convention?
I'm really into, you know, sort of anything that's Dungeons and Dragons based, like World of Warcraft,
like fantasy,
Skyrim, you know.
You like your fantasy type.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? And all of that is sort of based in that kind of a world.
Have you ever been to like a Renaissance fair or anything?
No, I would love a Renaissance fair.
Bro, let's go. Actually, no one coming up.
Yeah? Dude, let's go. Yes, I'm in. Where's it at?
I don't remember.
Oh.
But like I remember it being in like an achievable distance. Like even for me, you know. So it's not in like Georgia.
Okay, like, I was gonna ask if it's like with like
it was in our state.
If it takes less than a day to get there, I'm in.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I think anybody, if you're into anything, if you're like country music or you like blacksmithing or, you know, cake decorating, you should find these conventions. And even if you're just like kind of interested, because a lot of the panels and stuff that I experienced this weekend were like a big swath of things like, do you want to get into like anime dubbing or drawing, or, you know, how do you 3D print some of these like things for these intricate cosplays, like makeup artistry, and like, so if you find conventions that are things that you might even be kind of interested in, like tattooing or whatever, like it might be a way to get your foot in the door, meet some connections, and just be with people that are of the thing you're interested in or think you might be interested in. Like I really like can't recommend enough to go to a convention about a thing you like, because you just it won't be reciprocated how much you like that thing anywhere else in society, except for amongst those people, you know?
I mean, the idea, I've never been like super, I've had phases where I like Renaissance art and stuff like that, like where I like to enjoy some of that. But I also played an Assassin's Creed game, the second one, second, third, and 2 Brotherhood and Revelations. They all take place during that era.
Yeah.
And so like I would absolutely go dressed as Ezio Auditore.
For
which is-
sure.
yeah, that would be the shit. Like, fake weapons, no real weapons, of course. Like, but it would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd have a lot of fun, and putting on masks and shit. Like that stuff seems cool to me.
I like the people that really dedicate, because there's costumes and then there's people who cosplay,
Yeah,
people that make their own armor and like,
right.
like design the props, and it's just like, it's not my thing, but I have such a respect for it.
Yeah, we actually have a friend who made a real fucking sword. A mutual friend of fucking Kenpachi Zaraki from Bleach. He made that sword.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that jagged edge, like mean ass
That
looking
huge
thing.
blade.
Yeah, I've held it in my hands.
Very
It's
cool.
It's really cool to like, and he's like, because he didn't forge the sword, but it didn't originally have all that jagged edge on it. So
Yeah.
he fucking made that, and that was really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. He also had like, sometimes I've noticed sometimes when you buy things, because he bought another sword that was from Bleach, and it was nice, it was cool, but it didn't feel like and it was might have even been real, but it just didn't. It felt like too big. It felt like it wasn't really right, and I don't know.
I think that's probably a common thing with cosplays, is that like it's more advantageous to
make it.
make it
Yeah.
for you, your body type, this and that, what's
Exactly.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And so it's so cool to like see crafters. Sam and I are let's make it work type of fellas. So we're very DIY. Like all of our studio is DIY as fuck. But like, so I have a big appreciation for people that are like, I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah. Same. In fact, we might be building ourselves as it's getting warmer here. We're gonna build ourselves a new desk for the Dodo Birds podcast,
Yeah.
and we're probably gonna film that process. and
Yeah.
add
for
it as
sure.
some extra content. We're not 100% sure when we're getting to that, but that's one of those things we're actually excited to do. We looked at some more desks and we're like, no, we should make one. We have one that works for now. Like, let's make our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting project. I want to see, like, because I'm not good with carpentry, and I know you're not like, we both are probably
Well-
level 1 out of 20.
I've done a little bit in
Okay.
my time. I was Boy Scout too. We did a little bit back then. And
Sure.
And my dad.
But you don't-
My
you-
dad and brother have always done some. I got to do a little bit with them.
It's like inheriting a religion, though. Like, you're not a practicing.
Not at
Carpenter.
all. No. But it's funny because I've mentioned on the podcast before, my dad retired, and woodworking is something he wants to do. In fact, last time I was visiting him, he was looking at like a bench for building it.
Yeah.
And whenever he was doing that, I was looking, man, it'd be nice to have this. We're building our Dodo Birds desk.
Dude, for sure.
At the very least, maybe building parts
Your
of
dad
it.
should go to a woodworking convention.
He probably should.
Yeah, just imagine the conversations there. Just like they're just like in line waiting for the new release on Doug Phillips flathead nails or whatever. I'm just making up words, but
Or, I mean, I honestly, though, I could see them like having a thing where they're showing people how to build simplistic things. Like you were saying about this, is like, it'd be nice to have, because you maybe should tell the story first, yours, but I'll just kind of say, like, it'd be nice to have like, oh, this is how you get started low budget.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, if you want to do woodworking, here's a good way to start.
I'm actually thinking about doing a panel, like Sam and I doing a panel at Anime Milwaukee next year, because there was some. I joined a bunch of like the audio, the dubbing, the voice acting, all those sort of classes I went to,
Mm-hmm.
and they were really educational and they were like really well formatted and stuff. However, it was they kind of glossed over a lot of the very basics, where last time I've been to this this panel twice.
Mm-hmm.
Last time they talked about the basics, but in a very unapproachable way, talking like, oh, what you're going to want to do is spend $2,000 on soundproofing a room entirely. And then once you have the Neumann something or another microphone, the $2,000 microphone used, then you can start. Like, there was this the level of unapproachability.
Yeah. And it's also, it sounds kind of like, it's like, well, if you're already doing it, here's how it can get better. It wasn't really like, here's how you get started with no money, no know-how.
Intermediate.
Yeah.
Intermediate,
yeah.
And there was everybody who was there at those panels was interested in it because they had not done it yet.
Yeah.
Like they were interested because they're like, I might want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we're thinking about doing like how to start a podcast because we're not professionals. You
Yeah.
know that. You guys know that.
We started from nothing, from square fucking one. And that I think is our advantage. And hopefully by that time too, we'll be a little bit higher level. Like we'll have some better equipment. And we've spent a little money on it, but we know the ways you can get started with no money.
Yeah. I
Little
mean,
to nothing.
all of our money that we've spent has been gradual too.
Yeah.
It's like chump change here and there.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we've never
No
blown
big spending. Yeah.
like big cash.
No, because you don't need to. That's
You don't
like
need to.
kind of the secret is like you can. I mean, you know, I don't know what it takes to get millions of views.
Yeah.
Oh, that part we're still figuring out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as far as like actually getting it done, that it's easy. It's easy for us now.
Yeah, and that's like
It was hard at first.
just a piece of advice that we always go back to, but it's just like, just go do it. Just get out there and start doing something because that's how you're going to get better. Like Sam and I have gotten so much better, more fluid, more higher production with the show, and that's not going to stop.
Well, and
There's
I
no
gotta
way it's
say,
going to stop.
prior to doing this podcast, especially, I was kind of doing a lot of nothing. You know, I mean, I had, I have friends and I was but I was just working my job, hanging out with friends, seeing family. I wasn't doing anything to really like, expand my interests, my mind at all, except YouTube videos, which I truly do believe that being on social media is one thing, to constantly indulge in it is a bad thing. And for that to be pretty much what you do.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I was doing all the time. So when we started this, it started to feel a lot better. And I've also recently, because of this, so I watched a video. I don't want to go into too much, but
No, go for it.
I watched a video because of what we were doing. And this video had more of an impact on, it's something I might have watched without having been on, having started something like this. But since we did, it was about making video games. And starting small, right? Like the guy, I'll give him a shout out, I guess, Pirate Software, if you ever want to check it out. They're amazing. And the guy is Thor, and he just talks about like making games, and he's like, don't get discouraged. First thing you're going to make is going to suck. You know what I mean? But the minute you get a guy on the screen walking around, you've done something.
Yeah.
You know? And when I was watching this, he's like, you don't need to know anything about programming. You don't need to know anything about these. He even mentioned a FL Studio, which we use. He's like, but you don't need that. You can get free stuff.
Yeah.
And he was going through, and I actually felt motivated because of having done this podcast. Like we started it from nothing. I'm like, I think I could actually try this.
And we just been learning on our way. Like,
Yeah. And
we've been learning. We've been leveling up our ability to problem solve in other aspects of our lives too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we could figure out little bugs and stuff along the way here is transferable to anything.
Exactly. And that's why I've been feeling like more motivated to try it. And like, with the game making thing, you have to get a bigger team together, which I want Mike on the team. He's already agreed to it. And I'm working on getting some other people, but I actually feel like this is something that prior to this, I would have watched that video and never thought about it again.
Never.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's not something it'd be cool. Like I would have been like, man, that would be awesome, but then never thought about it again. But I've been thinking about it, not every day, but a lot since then.
Yeah.
And actually been, now that we have, because at the time when I first saw it, we were just starting to get better with dodo birds. It's like we needed to focus on dodo birds at that time.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually going to start making that move soon, and it's only because of dodo birds.
It's
and
very
just
exciting.
getting out there and doing something. Yeah.
So yeah, if you can take anything from like that at home, it's like if you just want to start doing something, just start it being bad. We say it all the time, but like not enough people say it. Like
I think so.
you see the examples of people doing it at the highest level everywhere with influencers, and like you see everything you like, you're seeing it a lot at the highest level. Like
Mhm.
you need to see people as they progress, because
It is,
that's part of the process. You don't get to be a crazy actor or whatever without being bad.
Well, and it does kind of, it's great to hear celebrities say, get out there, do your thing, don't wait, this and that. It's easy to say as a celebrity because you made it.
Right.
It's like it's nicer to hear it from the little guys who aren't really going anywhere with
Yeah.
it. It's just, but we're having fun with it. It's fulfilling.
It's almost discouraging sometimes when you see like somebody like, like seeing like, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers being like, you want to be a quarterback? You should. It's like, well, that's easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Like
It's
you're
you're the
you're
best.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Like,
Or a best. I don't know football.
but yeah, like if you saw some like college athlete or something being like, I've had to hustle really hard to get here. It's almost more inspiring, at least for me.
Or even just like mid-grade athletes saying,
Yeah.
get out there and do it. Even if you're not going to be number one, if you enjoy it, do it.
Yeah.
Because it's also, that's
We're
another
number
thing.
one in my head.
Well, but if we sat down to do this and we're like, all right, we're going to get up there, millions of viewers, we'd be very disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah,
and we wouldn't be doing it.
expectations. For sure.
Set your expectation. See, I set mine on the degree of like a kid who always loses at sports. Like, did you have fun? Okay. Then you won,
Yeah.
like, that was why I remember when I invented the sport and you're like, how do people win? And I picked the weenie route. I was like, whoever had the most fun.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But honestly, that's what it is like, would Sam and I love to someday have viewers and get paid potentially for this? Sure.
course. Yeah.
Sure. Because that means we would get to do it more.
Mhm.
But is that contingent for me to keep doing this? Not at all.
Not at all.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
That would be stressful. It would become a stressful thing.
Yeah.
If that was what we were trying to do. And
That's actually a piece of advice I can personally relate to is I've made a hobby a career before. I haven't talked about it a lot on this podcast because Glass and I have fought recently, but we're making up.
Yeah.
But I made a hobby a career before. I know it's possible. However, when you make it a career, it's less fun.
yeah,
It's a lot less fun.
stops being fun.
Like as soon as if you're ever
Or-
worried if you're ever worried about like I don't want to start knitting because I don't know if I can make money or anything like that,
Right.
as somebody who had that focus for a long time with my glass career, don't do that. Do it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Like the universe needs these mittens
Yeah. Yeah.
and I need to bring it to them. Like,
yeah.
like just do it for the love of the game, whatever it is you want to do.
And the minute you set too high of, because there's nothing wrong with setting goals. I got to be careful about the way I say this because you definitely want to set goals, and to some degree, if you're hitting them, then you're not setting them high enough, right? But don't be upset about that.
Yeah.
Don't let that discourage you. That's a good thing. It means that you probably improved more than you would have had you set them lower.
So the way I did it with my glass career was like I would always set like a 6-month goal. This is a short-term goal. And I
Mhm.
would set, what do I want to be able to, what technique do I want to master in a year from now? And then I had like a 5-year goal and I hit them all. Like,
There you go.
so setting them reasonable. At one point I thought about like setting in stone that I was going to go to like a big competition and like, and then I realized I was like, that's probably not a great goal to set. So be realistic with your expectations.
Yeah, and again, it's okay to set a goal that's maybe unrealistic. I don't know about unrealistic, but higher than what you'll probably hit.
Yeah.
It's just not letting it beat you down if you don't get it. It's like, that's the goal I wasn't going to hit. How close did I get?
Yeah,
You know,
even
like
if you
from
got
here to here.
if you got 8% to, the Olympics or whatever, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
8% is still 8%.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the end of the
Shoot
day,
for 10% next year.
Yeah.
Or next time.
double it.
Double it. 16.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just do whatever you want to do for the love of the game, or just to have something to occupy the mind. Life is stressful. We have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, there's always something. Like,
Well,
I think it's so therapeutic to have just something else to focus on.
and I know this didn't really, we're not even answering the advice yet, but whatever it is that we're, whatever it is you're thinking that we're talking about is making you think about, then don't ever, the number one advice is don't quit the day job,
Yeah.
because then your day job will fund what your hobby.
Yeah.
You know?
Then you need it to
Like,
work
that's-
all the time.
Yeah,
you
like,
know?
Exactly. And I guess that comes back always to like setting your goals. I'm sorry, not setting your goals too high, but totally spacing on
Your
it.
expectations.
Expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, we were saying it earlier. Don't stress about it. The minute it becomes something like so important that it has to get done, it has to get done right by this time, it's immediately not going to be fun.
Yeah, when in the Glass game, whenever I would get custom work,
Mm-hmm.
it felt that pressure. I did not like it. I
Yeah.
ended up stop doing it because it's like, hey, could you make me this and that? And that's not usually how I would make things, or like, like there's this added pressure to like make it in the way that people want. It's just like you're pulling yourself out of your flow state and trying to just make money. Because that's what it is like just trying
It becomes
to.
your income. It becomes your job, and nobody likes their fucking job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are people that do like their jobs, and that's great.
that is, yeah.
However, I bet there's probably a few problems with those jobs. One, it's either not emotionally rewarding, or it's not like financially rewarding. Like the people that, I don't think there's a lot of, probably less than 1% of everybody has both of those boxes checked.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't guess the statistics, but it's definitely way less than do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So maybe we should move on to our actual advice piece now.
I don't know. I think like we kind
We've
of,
just been doing it this whole time.
yeah. I mean,
Well, we can go for a few more minutes on this, then I think we still have a little time.
for sure. Did you want to do the advice?
No,
or?
not necessarily. It's closed now, so. But it
Yeah,
was just-
because we've been kind of,
I would say we've been giving
peppering
some
it in,
generic
like-
advice this whole episode. Really, it's been kind of like because
and not generic, because we mean it. Like
generic. I thought always was meant like
broad,
broad, general advice. I guess I
General,
should have said,
general.
not generic. Yeah.
like generic is like Hallmark
it's like
cards.
yeah.
Love your mother.
The cheap substitute.
Yeah.
So yes, general advice, I guess is what I meant to say. But
And it's authentic. We really mean that. Like because like I can't say it enough that just having something in your life that isn't your responsibilities is so therapeutic, and it's so like nourishing for you as a person. Just having something, anything, really anything. Like,
and, getting out into the world is also an inspiring thing. I mean, that's what you and Mary did over the weekend, and and through that you even got an idea for us for next year, possibly, to
Yeah.
set up a panel, and that got me excited. And I didn't think, there would anything for this crazy come out of, the weekend. Crazy come out. Anything crazy would come out of the weekend, at least not for Dodo Birds.
Yeah.
Wasn't even thinking about that. I was just hoping you guys had a good time. you
yeah,
know?
we did.
Yeah.
There'll be some videos in this, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of shenanigans, a lot of fun party, interesting folks. Getting out there in the world. Just like I had a friend who invited me to another convention in Chicago for Warhammer tabletop gaming,
Oh yeah,
and I'm not a Warhammer guy either.
like actual Warhammer, or is it
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Warhammer 40K?
40K.
Okay, yeah.
That's the actual one,
Oh,
by
is
the
it?
way.
Is it? Was it the first one?
It's debated.
Oh, is it?
Like,
I don't know.
I think they came out around the same time. But anyway, like,
I play the Total War
Yeah.
Warhammers, and
The
so
fantasy-
those seemed like the fantasy ones seemed like the base game to me.
The fantasy tabletop is cool too, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll have both.
Right? It's like if it's a big Warhammer event, they'll probably be going crazy.
Yeah, but I'm excited to do that because like I'm an outsider in that community as well, but they're kind of adjacent to some of my interests.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm excited to just go around those people. I just love when people are excited about something, even if it's sports. Like, I actually enjoy watching the games with people that, you know, have
Yeah.
their fantasy league and like they know
Yeah.
the player stats and stuff. Because it's just like, you fucking nerd.
Yeah.
I love it.
I would
Like-
be anytime I've ever, like, if there's like a football game on at a bar or at work and I'm sitting watching it by myself, bored as shit. Sitting with someone who loves football, watching that game changes it entirely.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter to me who's playing, any of that. It's just like if I'm with a friend who's enjoying it, it's a completely different experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Like at work, they'll all be sitting in there and watching, like, especially around the Super Bowl. They were actually watching the Super Bowl. And it was so great because, like, I don't give a fuck about football, but I went in there and they were all just like having a great time. And I just was like, yeah, I'm part of the group.
Yeah.
'Cause
would
it
you,
was fun. It felt fun.
do you think that there's much gatekeeping in sports?
Doesn't feel like it so much, honestly. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I think you're
when
right.
well, see, when I was younger, yes, there were a lot of dudes that made fun of me for not knowing the sports, you know, like, because I still to this day don't know how most of them are played. Like football is probably
or the
one.
positions.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Football is the only one that I really like. I fully understand how the scoring is done and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like I don't get all the calls and stuff like that. And back in the day, I used to catch a lot of shit for that. But I will say, lately, nowadays, it's great. People are so cool. Like there's something very obvious will happen, I guess, and I'll be like, oh, you know, what does that mean? And then they'll just kind of smile because it's like something that anyone who loves football should know.
Yeah.
But I don't. And then they'll tell me. They'll be nice about
They'll
it.
guide you
I'll
through.
say
it.
they're clearly getting a kick out of the fact that I'm like a kid who doesn't know anything about
They're
it.
probably excited that they get to teach you.
In some cases, yes, I think so. Especially because nowadays, they're all younger than me.
Do you think that sort of sentiment across the board generally is a product of the internet? And like being able to collect niche pockets of people. See, like if Anime Milwaukee it was its 16th year. I bet a decade ago it was much smaller, much more gatekeepy.
Sure.
But like now that it's, like it seems like the internet has
now that
opened up.
idea sharing is such a common thing,
Yeah,
and people
yeah.
wanting to learn new things. I mean,
It's like we all get to like connect with our people way easier than we could in the past.
yeah, but there's still the people, because I almost wonder that guy you mentioned earlier who was like rolling his eyes at you because he was clearly into the shit, but then
Yeah.
you talked to him. I almost wonder if it was like, what, are you here now that it's cool? Like if he's been into it his whole life and he's
Right.
like, what, you want to talk to me now that it's cool? I kind of get that, but it's also like, why not bring him into, because you're not new, but if for all he knows, you are.
Yeah.
right? Like, why not bring him into the fold? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're gonna get those people any sort of bowling, anything you're doing.
Bowling.
Like anything you get interested in, you always have that gatekeeper, that one guy who's holding on to the old ways. But I think people are just more generally accepting of that's the way it was in Glass for sure.
yeah.
Back in the day, you had to know somebody and
They had to like
what
you.
you said, what you taught them did not leave that shop.
Yeah.
Like,
But now it's like, oh, you try this little trick, man.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
forums and like,
Yeah, yeah.
all that.
That's for sure. Hell, I guess you could make that argument with video games too.
Anything.
Almost
I think
anything,
I think
yeah.
anything. Like I went to a Cannibal Corpse show
Mhm.
and they were playing with like a bunch of bands. So there were some young ones too. So a big age difference in the crowd.
Yeah, yeah.
Anywhere from 14 to 70.
Right.
Like, and there are the old heads, gray beards, leather vests and
Mhm.
stuff that would like scoff. But there was I remember a specific experience of like an older, had to have been grandfather,
Mhm.
Cannibal Corpse shirt, torn up, Probably got it in the 80s.
Probably got it when it was brand new back in the day.
And he was like super happy and just like, like just like a guardian,
Yeah,
he was an
yeah.
elder and he would love to see new people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I aspire to be.
Same.
It's like somebody who's just like, dude, you want to get into this? Let me show you what I know.
Yeah.
Let me help you.
Yeah, no, I love that mentality. I do think it's happening more. I don't know for sure if it's a product of the internet. It could be. I guess I always thought it was just like maturity, because whenever I was younger, it felt like everyone around you just wanted to be the smartest fuck in the room.
Yeah.
And so whenever you ask questions, they want to make you feel like an idiot instead of actually tell you the answers to your questions and make you smarter.
I need to get better about that too.
But I actually wasn't even talking about you, but yeah, you do that sometimes.
I do that sometimes.
But you know what it is with you? It's not out of like, wow, you're a fucking dumbass. It's because you know the answer. It's a long explanation, and right now is not the best time.
Yeah.
It's different than like, wow, you don't know that? God, well, you're a fucking idiot. How do you not know
Yeah,
that?
I thought you liked audio.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you knew. I thought you liked this stuff.
You should know the shit.
Yeah. No, that's the attitude that irritates the shit out of
You never listened to Slayer's unreleased album?
me. Yeah.
I thought you were a fan.
Yeah. I thought you said you were a fan. Like real fan. What was it? In Community, they were talking. I think it was Dave Matthews. They were talking about real fans call him Dave. Yeah, that's some gatekeeping kind of shit, right?
I do think it is. I do think it is probably a product of the internet. Even subconsciously, like
Yeah, it's one of
because
many.
it's
I'll
like
say, yeah.
even if it's like less cool to be that guy in the room that knows everything. I think that's even like a product of the internet, because we see cringe
yeah,
like people that are like, actually, and
Yeah.
I experienced a lot of that over the weekend, but communally, everybody was just like, ugh, this fucking guy.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So that's a great sentiment.
Yeah.
Where did that sentiment come from? I do think it's from the internet.
I think you're right. It's it's a product of the internet.
Yeah.
For sure.
But that actually guy is also a product of the internet.
Right.
So
I mean, I didn't want to.
there's a balance. There's a balance.
I could have gone devil's advocate hardcore there, but I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the bad things that came out. We're talking about a good thing that
Yeah.
came out of the internet. And that's where we're going to leave that particular conversation. And I think you're right. I think it has brought people together in that way. And I think some of it is also not related to the internet, like just people, mature people, I'm thinking back to mostly when I was a kid, pretty much ever since I became an adult, even in the sports category, it's like people are less of a dick about
Yeah.
shit when you just admit like, oh, I don't know that. Can you tell me?
Oh, so you're saying that maybe like that was always your experience in the past because you were younger?
Yeah.
Like,
And growing up, like it really wasn't until I was an adult in my 20s, early 20s, that bullshit sort of like, what, you don't know that? You're a fucking idiot,
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
not know that? It's just it really, like, even I felt like I even had teachers that are kind of like, you ask a question and they're like, well, I just went over it. And it's like, the reason I'm asking the question is because I didn't get it when you went over it, but they're just like, well, you should know this now.
you're
Just
right. Dude, I think I didn't even realize that that's like what sparked like that sentiment. Of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That it does come from like teachers of the past. And
Sure.
I do feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
generally that's probably an old way of doing things. Like
Well, I'm sure it still happens.
Sure.
But
everything happens all the time everywhere.
because also think about it. I mean, your job, maybe not, not everyone can have whatever job they want. But when you get older and you're an adult, you start keeping company with people that you choose to rather than people that you have to so much.
Yeah.
And so the people that you choose to keep company are probably going to be nicer about things.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't choose who I work with. And that's the thing. All the people that I work with, not all of them, but the ones that know sports and could have a heyday. And, once in a while they'll poke some fun. But like they could have a heyday ripping me for not knowing any of it. I wouldn't ask questions if they did that, but I ask them all the time because they just tell me. I
Yeah.
asked stupid questions that like a kid, 5-year-old kids would probably know if they've watched football with their dad. You know what
Sure.
I mean? And it's maybe not always football, but like they've watched soccer,
Whatever it
tournaments, golf.
is. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what that means, and so and they're cool, and I like that. It was and sports is definitely the category I noticed it the most growing up because my parents weren't into sports, so I didn't learn that shit at home. My brother didn't care for sports, my sister, I didn't, so I just never knew it. And so yeah, growing up, it was always like, God, you're a fucking idiot. It's like I'm not even gonna ask anymore. It made me hate sports honestly for a while. Yeah,
Gatekeeping does nothing for a community.
yeah. It makes
Like-
people not want to fucking be part of your thing.
The fact that there's so much of it in metal is just like metal could be way bigger if people weren't scared to try to get into it. Like, or
Right.
it goes with anything, you know?
Yeah,
Like
be inviting.
be inviting, be accepting, because you could have a new friend to hang out with
Yeah.
whatever the thing you like is.
Right.
Like it together. It's always
I mean-
better. Humans are built for community at the end of the day.
Hell, even one. I guess I have one last story to wrap up with because I, as a teenager, up until my mid-teens, I hated rap. I just thought it was bad.
Yeah.
Had no respect for the genre at all. Met Tommy, and then he showed it to me, showed me some of the good stuff, and rather than shitting on me for not liking rap, he was bringing me into the fold. And on the note of what you said, like you might have a new friend. Many years later, I met a guy who I intend to bring on the podcast, Case the Joint, rapper from Iowa.
Yeah.
And he's a good buddy of mine. And I never would have made a friend like that on my own had somebody else not brought me into the fold of liking rap music
Yeah.
way back in the day. You know, it's just one of those chains of things. It's like,
Be flexible. Be willing to try something different, you
They're
know?
on that front, but also I guess it's more a message to the people who are already into something. And if somebody wants to get into it, don't gatekeep. Be like,
Yes.
here's cool things about it. Even if they're negative, which I was when it came to rap. I used to shit on it, you know? And I gave him no reasons to want to bring me into that fold, but he did. Because I had made him like rock music, which he did not like.
Yeah. And he was accepting. There was acceptance
Yeah,
on both ends.
Exactly.
Like,
It
that's
was
cool.
both of us just being open-minded, like, wow, I missing out on a lot of fucking music here, you know?
Yeah. For sure. That's a beautiful message. So what do you think? I think, yeah, we've been going off for 20 minutes on some good messages and some stuff I really hope you guys take with you because
Yeah.
we're being legitimate. We're not just spewing content like
Right? The
we
suits were
really-
just for fun, but
yeah, I gotta
we're
get
not patronizing anyone.
we gotta get the good TikTok clips.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
so we will leave you guys to it. We will be making a St. Patrick's Day episode, releasing it this week.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do 2 this week, mostly because we wanted to cover all this and do a St. Patty's Day episode before St. Patty's Day, but it all happened in a narrow time. So we're gonna put 2 out this week.
get a
Look
little-
for it on Friday.
Get a little bonus.
Yeah.
So thank you again, guys. And this is Mike and Sam signing off. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.